doing in the region to destabilize the country.
کنفرانس مطبوعاتی دفتر نمایندگی شورای ملی مقاومت، سیاست در قبال ایران، دخالتهای رژیم آخوندی در منطقه و تهدیدهای اتمی. قسمت دوم.
معرفی کتاب تهدید پهپادی سپاه پاسداران، ترفند یک رژیم درمانده برای قدرت نمایی و جنگ افروزی.
پروفسور متیو کرونیک، مدیر ابتکار استراتژی جهانی در شورای آتلانتیک: برای مقابله با رژیم ایران و فعالیت‌های اتمی آن باید از جنبش آزادیخواهی مردم ایران حمایت کرد.
Thanks to all of you for attending this discussion on this important issue. Thanks to my distinguished co-panelists. I have been focused on the Iranian nuclear challenge in and out of government over the past 20 years, and I'll get to that in a moment, but I did want to begin also by congratulating NCRI on this report. It's really amazing, I think, over the past 20 years, the kind of information NCRI has been able to provide on the Iranian regime's activities, going back to some very foundational revelations on the nuclear program almost 20 years ago, and all the way to this report today. And really remarkable, the level of detail they get into in terms of Iranian's drone production capability. And this is a real threat currently in the region. These drones have been used to kill Americans in Iraq, to attack Saudi oil facilities. So Iran is using this drone proliferation to further their goals in the region, but destabilizing the region, and so I think understanding this threat is important. So congratulations. Look at the behavior of the Iranian regime. It spends an awful lot of resources and attention on repressing and abusing the Iranian people. Okay, so let me come to the nuclear challenge, and this is significant. First, Iran is close to having a nuclear weapons capability. In order to build nuclear weapons, it essentially needs to do three things. It needs to have enough highly enriched uranium. It needs to have the ability to fashion that into a nuclear warhead, and it needs the ability to deliver that against its enemies. Many assess that Iran already has the ability to build at least a basic nuclear warhead. Iran already has the ability to deliver nuclear weapons against its enemies. It has the most sophisticated ballistic missile program in the Middle East. And so the last remaining piece is the uranium enrichment. And so people have focused on this breakout time. How long would it take the Supreme Leader to dash to one bomb's worth of weapons-grade uranium? And right now, outside experts are estimating that this breakout time has shrunk down to as little as 3 weeks. So if the Supreme Leader made the decision today to enrich as much uranium as fast as possible, that he could be essentially to the point of no return within 3 weeks. So this is really, I think, the worst position we've ever been in, including worse than in 2012 in the run-up to the last deal. Why do we care about a nuclear-armed Iran? It poses a number of obvious threats. It could lead to further proliferation of nuclear weapons in the region and to terrorist groups. I think there are things we can do to make the regime worry more about its domestic insecurity issues, as David Shedd correctly pointed out, supporting the democratic aspirations of the Iranian people. And then I do think we need to put the military option back on the table as a last, well, first to support diplomacy. I think that's one thing that will concentrate minds of many of the diplomats in Vienna if they know that their efforts fail The result will be military strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities, and then as a last resort to prevent Iran from building nuclear weapons if necessary. But I think the ultimate goal, as many of my colleagues have pointed out, is to one day have a better government in Iran that respects the human rights of its own people and that follows a more cooperative foreign policy internationally. Thank you.
دیوید شت، مدیر آژانس اطلاعات دفاعی آمریکا 2015. اینکه مقاومت ایران عموم مردم را از برنامه پهپادی رژیم آگاه می‌کند کار بزرگی است که در زمینه حساس کردن جهان در رابطه با فعالیت این رژیم مستبد بسیار مهم است.
I can tell you that there is no topic more of greater interest and of greater priority than this one in terms of talking about Iran, its behavior, where the United States stands on it along with its allies. I also want to thank the NCRI, much as Senator Lieberman recognized that you are, when it comes to collecting on the UAV program and many of the other aspects that you are engaged on, and then finding a way to share this with the public and have that awareness created by the great work that you are doing in terms of sensitizing the world as it pertains to the activities of this despotic regime. We know full well that this regime for now over 40 years has continued to target dissidents abroad. It has targeted journalists, and there is no end in sight in terms of their support for those who are willing to speak up and then become the target of their wrath. And to that end, when I think about the attempted or actual assassinations in about 5 countries since 2015, 2016, in Europe, in the Middle East, and even in the Americas, I find that the fraudulent election associated with Raisi and the Supreme Leader Khamenei's role in supporting this is only going to become more hardline in terms of the pursuit of their opposition in their near abroad and anywhere around the globe that it expresses itself. And there is no limits to what they might use by way of the tools in their kit to do this. Issue number 1 is the asymmetrical use of technology applies to Iran. Their ability, for example, and there's no current better example that you have provided through this wonderful report of the UAV drone program. The second observation is the internet is a means for targeting people, be it through their phishing exercises and attempts, as well as disruptive attempts, as we saw with the case of Saudi Arabia and Aramco, and their ability to go after their defined adversaries in a way that they use the ones and zeros to pervasively go after them in that regard. So how do we respond to it? And this idea that any kind of lifting of sanctions or lifting or providing sanction relief will be met with a response of kindness and understanding and making concessions on the part of the regime is an entirely false premise, which is not supported by history in any way, shape, or form. So one is continuing the pressure. Secondly, it's finding ways, as Ambassador Joseph has already referenced, how do you support the internal opposition so that the focus of the regime continually goes back to inside Iran as opposed to the export of their nefarious activities, be it in Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, and elsewhere around the globe. And by doing so, one of the things that I would argue vehemently for is to bring them the internet through satellite and access to outside information, as I think people long to be free and long to have information delivered to them in a manner that is uncontrolled and unconstrained, as the regime clearly wants to do. And thirdly, it's to, again, use the international forums to really keep the human rights issues at the forefront and place the regime clearly in the crosshairs of one of, if not the greatest human rights violator in the world at present time. Again, thank you for this opportunity.
They're doing in the region to destabilize the country.